This is lesson 2.5, subtracting integers. You can use a number line to model a subtraction problem. Write a related addition sentence for the subtraction sentence. This is 6 minus 7. 6 minus 7. A related addition sentence would be 6 plus a negative 7. Both result in an answer of -1. Use a number line to find each difference. Write an equivalent addition sentence for each. So I'm going to start here at 0. I'm going to go to 1. Then I'm going to subtract 5. And I'm going to end up at, here's 1, starting at 0. Subtracting 5, I end up with -4. So this would be the same as 1 plus a -5. The result is 4. In our second example, starting at 0, going to -2, then subtracting another 1 would give us -2 minus 1, starting at 0, going to -2, subtracting another 1 gives us -3. So -2 minus 1 is -3. The related addition sentence or equivalent addition sentence would be -2 plus -1, which gives us -3. Example 3. Starting at 0, going to -3, subtracting -4, starting at 0, going to -3, subtracting another -4. So -3 minus 4 is -7. The equivalent addition sentence would be -3 plus a -4, or -7. And example number 4, a simple one, 0 minus 5 would be -5. The equivalent addition sentence would be 0 plus a -5, which gives us -5. Which says, when you subtract 7, the result is the same as adding the opposite of -7. We conclude from that and other examples that to subtract an integer, you can simply add its opposite. This is actually called the algebraic definition of subtraction. So 4 minus 9 is the same as 4 plus a -9. 7 minus a -10 would be the same as 7 plus 10. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. In example number 1, 8 minus 13 becomes 8 plus -13 by adding the opposite. The result is -5. -10 minus 7 becomes -10 plus a -7, which is -17. In example A, 6 minus 12 becomes 6 plus a -12. If we do the absolute value thing, we do the absolute value of -12 minus the absolute value of 6. 12 minus 6 is 6 because the greater absolute value is that of the -12. Our result is -6. In B, -20 minus 15 becomes -20 plus a -15. Both signs are the same here, so our result is -35. And example C, -22 minus 26 becomes -22 plus -26. Again, both signs are the same. The result then is -48. Subtracting negative integers. In this case, the same rules apply. subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. So subtracting a negative 2 becomes the same as adding 1, or adding 2. Subtracting negative 7 becomes the same as adding 7. Same property applies. In example D, 4 minus a negative 12 becomes 4 plus 12, or 16. In E, negative 15 minus a negative 5 becomes negative 15 plus 5. And again, the absolute value of negative 15 is 15. The absolute value of 5 is 5. Subtract the absolute values. 15 minus 5 is 10. Because the negative 15 has a greater absolute value, our answer is negative. In example F, 18 minus a negative 6 becomes 18 plus 6. Both numbers positive. The result is 24. Evaluating algebraic expressions when they give us the value for the variable. In our first example, x minus y becomes negative 6 minus a negative 5 using the values supplied to us. Negative 6 minus a negative 5, we change to addition of the opposite. The absolute value of 6 minus the absolute value of 5 is 1. The negative 6 has a greater absolute value than 5, so our answer is negative. Example G. B minus 10 becomes negative 8 minus 10, which becomes negative 8 plus negative 10. Both signs the same, negative 18. A minus B becomes 5 minus negative 8. Addition of the opposite becomes 5 plus 8, or 13. C minus A becomes negative 9 minus 5 becomes negative 9 plus negative 5. Again, signs both the same, negative 14 in this case. Subtracting now a negative instead of a positive, we still use addition of the opposite, so subtracting negative 5 becomes the same as adding 5, giving us negative 1. Using absolute values, the absolute value of negative 6 is greater than the absolute value of 5, so our result is negative. Example G, B minus 10 becomes negative 8 minus 10, which becomes negative 8 plus negative 10, which is negative 18. A minus B, 5 minus a negative 8, becomes 5 plus 8, which is 13. C minus A, negative 9 minus 5, becomes negative 9 plus negative 5, negative 14. The temperature on the moon varies from negative 173 degrees Celsius to 127 degrees Celsius. Find the difference between the maximum and the minimum. In this case, the maximum is 127, the minimum is negative 173. The difference between the two would mean subtraction. We're going to change that to addition of the opposite, giving us the result of 300. The Dead Sea's deepest part is 799 meters below sea level, so that would be negative 799. A plateau to the east of the Dead Sea rises to about 1,340 meters. What is the difference between the top of the plateau, which is what this would be, and the deepest part of the Dead Sea? Difference means subtract. So 1,340 minus a negative 799, which means we're going to change that to addition of the opposite, which gives us 2,139, I believe, feet. Here we'll just do the odd-numbered problems. Hopefully that's enough. 14 minus 17 becomes 14 plus negative 17. which becomes negative 3 because negative 17 has a greater absolute value than 14. So 17 minus 14 is 3. The negative number is greater. And we won't show that every time. We'll assume that you're doing that. For the sake of time, we won't show it. Negative 4 minus 8 becomes negative 4 plus negative 8, which is negative 12. This is example 3. This was example 1. Example 5, 14 minus a negative 10. Addition of the opposite becomes 14 plus 10, which is 24. And number 7, negative 3 minus a negative 1 becomes negative 3 plus 1. Again, absolute values, the absolute value of negative 3 minus the absolute value of 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. The negative absolute value is greater. So our answer is negative. I'm evaluating a couple more expressions. R minus 15. R is negative 6, so we have negative 6 minus 15, which becomes negative 6 plus negative 15, which is negative 21. Number 10, Q minus R becomes negative 14 minus a negative 6. Negative 14 plus 6. The absolute value of 14 minus the absolute value of 6 is 8. Because the negative absolute value is greater, my answer is negative. 11, P minus Q. P is 8. Q is negative 14. Addition of the opposite becomes 8 plus 14, which is 22. Number 12, the sea surface temperatures range from negative 2 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius. Find the difference, which means subtract, between the maximum and the minimum. So the maximum is 31. The minimum is negative 2. That would be our subtraction expression. 31 plus positive 2, using addition of the opposite. The difference in the two temperatures then is 33 degrees Celsius. At this point, you should quit the video, go back to my Moodle page, look for lesson quiz 2.5, sign in using your 6-digit student number as your username, using the first 6 digits of your last name and your 2-digit birthday as your password, and take the formative assessment quiz. Thank you.